The Galactic Medical Academy's amphitheater fell silent as Professor Zelther's crystalline appendages gestured toward the holographic display. 23 students from 17 different species sat in their specialized seats, their various sensory organs focused on the day's lesson, emergency field medicine for carbon-based lifeforms. Today, Zelther announced in the universal frequency, we have a special guest. A human medical officer from the Terran Expeditionary Fleet. A collective rustle of concern rippled through the audience. Humans. The newcomers to the galactic stage who had only achieved faster-than-light travel 3 generations ago. The species that the Galactic Council still debated whether to fully integrate into civilized space. Lieutenant Marcus Webb strode onto the platform, his military uniform crisp despite having just completed a 14-hour shift aboard the research vessel Endeavour. He was unremarkable by human standards, average height, brown hair beginning to gray at the temples, a slight limp from an old injury that the Academy's medical scanners had already flagged as inadequately healed. The Vrick student in the front row, a being resembling a floating jellyfish with bioluminescent organs, pulsed nervously. Vrick's physiology was delicate, requiring constant monitoring and immediate medical intervention for even minor injuries. The thought of working alongside creatures as reckless as humans made their chromatophores flash anxious purple. "Thank you, Professor," Marcus said, his voice carrying easily through the space. "I understand today's topic is field stabilization techniques for joint injuries." "Correct," Zelther confirmed, their tone carrying the careful neutrality they used when dealing with humans. "Perhaps you could demonstrate the proper immobilization procedure for a shoulder separation?" Marcus nodded and moved toward the medical equipment staged at the center of the platform. But as he reached for the demonstration dummy, his boot caught on a supply container that had been carelessly left near the edge of the platform. What happened next occurred in less than 2 seconds, but for the alien students watching with their various enhanced perception speeds, it unfolded like a slow-motion catastrophe. Marcus stumbled. His arms windmilled as he tried to catch his balance. His right hand found purchase on the edge of a table, but his momentum carried his body forward and down. There was an audible pop that the Academy's sensitive audio equipment picked up and amplified throughout the chamber, the unmistakable sound of a joint separating. The human hit the ground and rolled, coming to rest on his back. His right arm hung at an unnatural angle, clearly dislocated from the shoulder socket. The amphitheater erupted in chaos. "Medical emergency." Professor Zelther's translator boomed. "Activate trauma protocols. Someone contact the intensive care unit." A Kree student, whose species prided themselves on their medical prowess, was already triggering their emergency beacon. Another student, a methane-breathing Sotherii, began flooding their translator with prayers for the dying. But Marcus was moving. He sat up, his face contorted in what the aliens recognized as pain, a universal expression even across species barriers. With his left hand, he quickly felt along his right shoulder, his fingers probing the displaced joint with practiced efficiency. "Wait," Zelther began, floating closer. "Lieutenant, please remain still. Medical personnel are en route. Moving could cause catastrophic damage to your circulatory system, your neural clusters." "It's fine," Marcus grunted, and before anyone could stop him, he did something that would be replayed in medical academy classes for the next century. He rotated his torso, positioned his left hand on his right elbow, took a deep breath, and with a swift, deliberate motion, popped his shoulder back into its socket. The clunk echoed through the suddenly silent amphitheater. For a moment, no one moved. No one breathed, or performed whatever respiratory function their species required. They simply stared as the human rolled his shoulder experimentally, winced, and then slowly climbed to his feet. "Sorry about that," Marcus said, brushing dust from his uniform. "Old injury. Happens every few years if I'm not careful." "Where were we?" A Vrick student fainted, their gelatinous body splashing into their containment seat. Another student, a rocky granitoid, made a sound like grinding boulders that their translator rendered as impossible. Professor Zelther's crystalline structure had turned a pale, shocked color. You you manually relocated your own joint. Without anesthesia. Without imaging. Without a sterile field. Marcus looked genuinely confused by the reaction. Well, yeah. It's just a dislocation. If you relocate it quickly, it's not that bad. Hurts like hell for a few minutes, but it's better than waiting for it to swell. Not that bad. A four-armed Cree student's voice cracked across 3 octaves. That injury would require a Cree to enter medical stasis for 6 cycles. The pain alone would cause system shock. The potential for nerve damage, Zelther added, their voice still trembling slightly, the risk of vascular injury, the introduction of pathogens. Look, Marcus interrupted gently, I appreciate the concern, but humans are built differently. We evolved on a pretty rough world. Our joints are designed to take abuse. High gravity, active predators, persistence hunting, our bodies needed to be resilient and self-repairing. He rotated his arm again, demonstrating full range of motion despite the injury that had occurred mere minutes ago. Human joints can dislocate and relocate multiple times without permanent damage. Our pain tolerance is, well, it's necessary when you come from a world where nearly everything wants to eat you. A small Pixarii student, no larger than a human hand, spoke up in a tiny voice, your world sounds terrifying. Marcus laughed, a sound that several students found disturbingly similar to a predator's warning call. Earth? Yeah, I guess it is. But it made us tough. Made us adaptable. Made us the kind of species that can pop a shoulder back in and get on with the day. He walked over to the medical equipment, pointedly using his recently dislocated arm to lift a heavy scanner. Now, should we talk about field stabilization techniques? Because I've got some tricks that might surprise you. As the lecture resumed, the alien students watched with new eyes filled with a mixture of horror, fascination, and grudging respect. They had learned an important lesson that day, one that would be whispered across the galaxy for years to come. Humans were not fragile. They were not delicate. They were survivors from a death world, creatures who could endure injuries that would kill most species, and they could do it with nothing more than a grimace and a casual apology. The galaxy had welcomed humanity to the stars. But perhaps the galaxy had not fully understood what it was welcoming. In the back of the amphitheater, Professor Zelther made a note in their personal log, recommend updating human durability classifications. Current ratings, grossly inadequate. Retry.